Countess Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue my discussion on the lands, legends, planes, and planeswalkers of Magic the Gathering, where I go over these bits of lore for you, giving you history information, storylines related to them that give you information about the world settings of Magic the Gathering, of its sets and products releases as they've been established. So, today for you, of course, I have a land, and when a land comes to Ravnica, we have to talk about the guilds, because they are the ultimate representations of the different lands within Ravnica. So today I have, then, the Golgari Swarm. The Golgari Swarm is a black mana and green mana aligned guild within Ravnica. They are also known as the Swarm. They are the embodiment of life and death. They believe that life is as natural as death, and the world exists essentially because of both of them. Both are needed for the natural order to be maintained. Growth and thus power, though slow and inevitable, is the source of the strength of the Swarm. Since they are true masters of necromantic magic, they tend to be the largest of all the guilds on Ravnica. The Golgari Swarm refer to revealed their legendary Perun, their founder, Svogathur, the god zombie, as they call him. So, the Golgari Swarm, of course, was founded by their Perun, Svogathur, a human necromancer turned lich. They, in fact, function as the agricultural sector of Ravnica. For Svogathur, following his mortal death, he used his mastery of necromancy to effectively reanimate his own corpse into that of a lich, and through the years enhanced this corpse to create a stronger and more powerful body by integrating various other parts he could acquire, very powerful ones, into his new form. Now, by the time we get to the first Ravnica block, we find that the strength, the leadership of the guild itself is contested repeatedly. There are two major factions competing here. The Dark Elves and their factions, and a group of plant zombies and their allies. These two factions repeatedly compete for control over the entire guild. Around the time of the Decamillennial, the plant zombies and their allies had hegemony, had control over the guild. About a millennia prior to now, the Sisters of Stone Death, a quintet of Gorgons, attempted to overthrow Svogathur. Two of the sisters died, but they did manage to successfully have their coup. They turned all of Svogathur's body to stone, only leaving him a head, keeping the majority of his necromantic magic intact in that head. The remaining three sisters kept Svogathur effectively under arrest in a tomb in Gregor Canyon. Now, by the time the Decamillennial rolled around, though, the leader of the Dark Elves, their high priestess, Savara, with the help of the leader of the House Demir, one of the other guilds, attempted to overthrow the Sisters of Stone Death. She was able to resurrect Svogathur and used that to overthrow the sisters. She then used an ancient and powerful magic to liberate Svogathur's spirit from his head and imbue it into her staff. Doing this, she proclaimed herself the new guildmaster. But Savara was quite power-hungry and saw an opportunity to both infiltrate and dominate the Cessnian Conclave also, gaining herself control over two guilds. She was eventually betrayed by Sazdek and ended up getting killed in her attempts to do this. Because of this, Savara's brother, Jared, in fact helped when it came to defeating Sazdek, the leader of House Demir. So Jared did do that and claimed then guild rulership over the Golgari Swarm. After this, though, he was captured and sacrificed by a blood witch from Rakdos, in order to, wake up Rakdos himself. Jared died, but then came back as a lich, and soon after then, of course, continued his guild leadership, once again declaring himself leader. So he ended up also dying and coming back. A common theme for many of the Golgari, it seems. Now, the guild hall during this time is Svogathos, a former Orzhov Syndicate cathedral changed into something for the Golgari Swarm, part living as it's been integrated with plants and various fungi, and seemingly on the move, whatever is the heart of Golgari territory, this former cathedral, now made into this manifest, seems to travel. This is also the place where Svogother's head was housed. Now, when we come to the Return to Ravnica storyline, Jared is still in control. After all the guilds dissolved at the end of the last storyline, the Swarm pretty much stayed the same as it was. For 10,000 years, they had done just one job, and they were good at it. They kept up with it. They were the silent machine in the depths of the undercity, below everyone else. They were good at their job and kept with it. They don't really know any other life. Now, Jared has maintained his power. He has quelled any signs of insurrection in amongst the Swarm to keep himself at the top of it, especially amongst those plant zombie faction and their allies. He kind of bides his time, knowing on the surface things are bad because of the dissolution of the guilds, but things will return to normal, to business as usual in amongst all of the guilds and their groups of Ravnica, and he knows this is going to occur. So the Swarm just continues doing what it does best, deep underground. Corozda is referred to as the new guild hall during this period of time, but it in fact is just an immense overgrown maze of tunnels, a fungus-encrusted network that houses deep in its center Svogother's cathedral. This is the lair of Jared, this entire structure, where he regularly meets his attendants. It is patrolled by many dangerous beasts of the Swarm, and would be very dangerous to dive into its maze. Now, other than the leaders, which we talked about, the guild did have champions during these two periods of time. During the original Ravnica block, this was Sarva. She was, in fact, before the guild leader, guild champion. Nowadays, under Jared, Varolz, a powerful troll combined with a symbiotic fungus, is the one that acts as the guild champion. Now, the two mechanics of the guild are Dredge, which would be under Dredge End, which instead of drawing a card, you may put a number of cards equal to N from the top of your library into your graveyard, and then return the card with Dredge from your graveyard to your hand. That's an option, or you could just draw a card as normal. You don't have to pay the Dredge cost if you have a Dredge card in your graveyard. You just have the option, if it was Dredge 2, put 2 cards, get that Dredge card back from your graveyard to your hand. The other ability in the Return to Ravnica block is Scavenge, which is represented by Scavenge N. If a creature with Scavenge is in your graveyard, you may pay the N cost, whatever mana cost that is, exile that Scavenge creature, and put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to its power on target creature you control. Use that ability as a sorcery. So as your creatures die, I could exile them in order to put +1/+1 counters on something else I control. But that's it for today. So I introduce you to the Golgari Swarm, the green-black guild within Ravnica. And as I've said, when we talk about Ravnica, the guilds are its lands. Each of them representing the 2 color mana combinations take up territory. And in this one in particular is unique. Most of the guilds compete with each other directly, but the Swarm doesn't usually have a place in there. They don't have the same kind of aggression. They do their job, they do it well, and they keep their heads down. They are a power behind the entire city that just sort of sinks beneath the surface. They know what they have to do, they do it well, and they know that they have strength in amongst each other. Granted, this does not mean they have their own ambitions or their own competitions with each other, but the Undercity is its own world, and they are the masters of it. Anyway, if you have any kind of green-blacks, in particular Golgari decks that you've ever made, that you've played, that you really liked, both from the original Ravnica or the Return, let me know in the comments below. It's actually a color combination I love quite a lot. I've had a few decks with it. So, though, regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.